Okay, in this video, we're going to look at variables and data types, kind of describe those, what's going on there. So what is a variable? Well, a variable is just a user-defined word to describe a holder or what we're going to use to contain something. In this case, we've already used one variable, and it is the chapter 2. Okay, so that's the name of our class. Those are the only variables that we have right here, or that we've actually declared, user-defined identifiers, is the chapter 2, and this is the class name. So let's look at some other variables. The first one we're going to look at is age. Okay, so I'm not going to look at int right now. We're just going to look at age. Age is just used to describe something. In this case, it's going to be what we're going to use to hold our age. Then next one we're going to look at is a double. I'm sorry, nope, that's a data type. We're not looking at the data types right now. We are looking at the variable. Variable name is Holly Keys. Might not make a lot of sense to you, and it wouldn't because this was used in class. We're just going to continue with it. But we've got this other variable. It's called Holly Keys. Our variables can be called really anything we want to, as long as it makes sense to us what they're going to be used for and why we have them. Age is an age. Holly Keys is, we don't know what Holly Keys is. It was used earlier today, but we've got it. We named it, so we just have it. Next one we're going to look at is middle initial, kind of self-explanatory. Think of a variable like in math, x, y, n. Except for in Java and computer languages, you can make them a lot longer. You just use camel case and you can make them as descriptive as you want to. Next one we're going to look at is high score. Okay, so high score is just going to hold, well, our high score. Then we've got another one, it's called Haley, and another one, increase amount. Again, names might not be descriptive because they were used in class, but general idea. Final one we're going to look at is tax rate. Okay, so notice this one's a little bit different. We don't use camel case on this one. We'll come back to that one later. But we are using tax rate. So these are our variable names. And again, your variable names can be kind of as long as you want them to be. You want them to describe what they're going to be used for, what they're going to hold. Which brings us to our second part, and that is the data type. That precedes the actual variable name. So in this case, we have the variable name age. Well, what is age? Age is going to be a number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 through about 150. So we're going to use this data type, and the data type is called int, int, or it's an integer. All that does is that says, hey, age is going to be some value between, in an integer's case, it's like -3 billion to +3 billion. So age is going to hold a number, a whole real number, between -3 billion to +3 billion. Then we've got Holly Keys. Well, what is Holly Keys? That's a name, but what does it actually mean? To the computer, it means it's going to hold a double. Well, what is a double? That's its data type. A double just means it's going to hold a decimal point. It's going to have a decimal value with 15 places of precision. So now that we can have a decimal value up to 15 points long. 3.14, $1.99, whatever kind of decimal that you would have, that's what a double would be. So an integer data type means it's just a whole number. Age is going to hold a whole real number. Double is going to have a decimal point of up to 15 points of precision. Then we've got this char or char character, or what it's pronounced different ways. I call it a char because I know it's going to be a character, but it's also pronounced char because that's how it's spelled. A char is one single character. A character could be A or K or P, but a character can also be a space or an exclamation point or an addition sign or an equals or a dollar sign. A character is also a 1 or a 5 or a 9. Remember, those aren't numeric. I mean, they can be numeric, but in the case of a character, they are not. Those are one single character. Periods and quotation marks, those are all characters. So a character just means it's going to be any single one of those. Then we've got a Boolean data type. Well, what is a Boolean data type? A Boolean data type just means it can hold the values of either true or false. That's it. It can be one of two states, true or false. So again, the data types that we're looking at, these are variable names. We can call them anything they want to as long as they're not keywords being used by Java. Then we've got the data type. The data type tells what these are going to hold. So in this case, we'll start at the top. Integer, whole real number, double decimal point, character is one single character, anything you type on your keyboard, and the Boolean is either a true or false value. Collectively, these are what's called primitive data types. They're known by Java when the program first starts. To you, I think, oh, well, it all makes sense. It's all known by Java. Not exactly, and we'll cover that later on when we get later into the course. Right now we're just looking at these data types are primitive. Java knows them. We've got these other data types that we've been using called the string. The string data type is just a string of characters. That's how it got its name. It's a single character, but single characters strung together form an array or a string of characters. And we'll talk about how Java actually handles these later on in the course. Just know that a string is not a primitive data type. Okay, it's created, and it has its own class called the string class. Kind of like we have a class, the chapter 2 class, or a world class, or a turtle class. Okay, string is just a class, a string of individual characters. And then finally, we've got a variable, okay? And the variable in this case is tax rate. And this is all uppercase with an underscore. Well, it's a data type double, which means it's going to be a value of point something, or it can hold values. But because it has the keyword final, that means it cannot be changed. So once tax rate has a value, it'll never be changed because it has final. We'll look at this in the next video. But just know right here, look at the data type and the variable name. Okay? The final just says it cannot be changed later on. Again, we'll discuss that later. So this is basically what variables and data types are and how they work. They're really important. You have to understand them. You have to know them. And they're not very complicated, though. You give it a name, and then by the name, you just tell Java what's going to be held in that variable. You can name as many as you want. And I think that's about it about variables and data types.